buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. That's where you'll find the links to the audio-only stream, the podcast, and, of course, social media like Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, where we simulcast the radio show every morning, as well as, of course, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello and good morning to the Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show. We have got a great show lined up for you today. In hour two, we're going to be joined by former Representative Ben Carpenter, who is going to come on board and chat with us about the special session, which has been going on here for the last few days here after the weekend break. And we've been getting some interesting developments and some interesting information out of that. And I'll be excited to see what Ben's analysis is of some of the meetings that have been going on over the last couple days. And we'll see what he has to say. I spent a chunk of the afternoon yesterday watching and going over a portion of the Senate Finance Committee meeting yesterday with Nick Fulford from Gaffney Klein there as their presenter and guest. He's going to be back there this morning at 9 a.m., and they're going to be talking more about the gas line. And boy, they got down into the weeds on some of this stuff. But it was interesting to watch, and we'll see what Ben Carpenter brings to the table here in hour two with his discussions and his thoughts on this as well. In hour one, we've got some headlines, including the latest on the gubernatorial race. As we talked about yesterday, the deadline for filing is coming up on Monday. And there's a whole slew of candidates that still don't have a running mate. But except for now, there's one more that does have a running mate, and that is the leading Democrat contender, Tom Begich. He's announced his running mate. We'll talk about that here in a second as well, plus the latest from the ranked choice voting repeal, what's going on with that, and some of the bills that failed in the last session. Mary Kanagi and Iris Samuels over at the ADN have got a good article that highlights a lot of the big ones. And I guess with all the bad things, with all the bad things that were potentially on the table, and even with all the things that we didn't want to pass that passed, I would say we dodged some real bullets on some of this. And it's going to be it's going to be some interesting. It'll be a little bit of an interesting walk down memory lane here as we look at this and take a look at some of the bills that did not go anywhere. And we should, I guess, in some ways, be thanking our lucky stars that some of this stuff didn't happen. But most importantly, this morning, we are going to also open up the phone lines. So if you've got a thought, or you've been watching something on the horizon, maybe you've been watching the special session or whatever else, and you want to sound off, maybe there's something going on in your hometown that you want to talk about. We're opening up the phone lines this morning for any discussion in hour one that we want to have at 319-527-3864. So feel free to jump on board and see what there is to say about it. 319-527-3864. And your phone calls, again, as always, reign supreme on our discussions this morning. So feel free to jump in and be part of it, and let's get together and hang out. That's one of my favorite things, is taking calls from listeners, because I'm truly interested in what folks are thinking out there. What's going, is it just because I'm in a little bit of a bubble here. I'm in a little bit of a bubble of people who, the guests that I talk to, or people that talk to me from Juneau or whatever else. And so I want to make sure that I'm hearing and thinking and talking about things that folks truly care about. And it's not just me talking to myself in the corner out there. So I will love to do it. Currently 38 degrees here in beautiful Homer, Alaska. 39 degrees up in Fairbanks under blue skies. So I don't know if this is just the new normal, and this is what we should expect, but still seems a little bit on the chilly side to me, especially after my wife started sending me photos from last year. Yet last year was our first spring actually living in Homer, and she was sending me her Facebook memories from last year. And she may have been complaining. She may have been griping a little bit about the weather. I can't blame her. For it. She wants that sunshine. And, we had flowers on the deck, and the lawn was green and everything else. And it's still just not. In fact, I was standing out on the porch last night with the dogs running wild in the backyard, and all I could think of was, this looks more like fall weather than it does spring weather. Anyway, I thought it was interesting to see, but currently, again, a little chill, not quite the summertime feel that we were looking for as well. Now, I would be the first to tell you, we're going to talk again about the special session, and I'm sure that Ben Carpenter is going to go into this a little bit deeper than I did. I'll be the first to tell you that I did not watch the entirety of the special sessions meetings yesterday for the Senate Finance Committee, because it was 3 hours worth of 3 hours. I did scan through it, though. I watched chunks of it as I was looking at it, and it's some interesting stuff. It definitely gives you an idea of where the Alaska project stands. They did comparatives to the Kitimat LNG facility, and that was interesting to watch for sure. And then they again, Nick Fulford from Gaffney Klein, who is the senior director for oil and gas, gas in systems for Gaffney Klein. He brought a lot to the table, and it was it was interesting. It was a little overwhelming, quite honestly. And I was under a bit of a time crunch, so I spent about 45 minutes, an hour, trying to go through 3 hours worth of commentary and testimony. But KTUU has got they caught the same thing that I caught in my perusal, and that's the fact that Bert Stedman was very concerned about one thing, and that is the equity stake that the state of Alaska will be holding in the gas line. He made a comment that the Alaska share of the pipeline is supposed to be 25%. As it stands, we hold a 25% equity share in the gas line. But Stedman talked about that if additional investors come in and choose to buy in and support and finance the project, that could lead to a part where Alaska's stake is basically has no value or virtually no value. It talks about it being a dilution issue. They just have no idea. So far, the state has allocated a significant amount of money. First, they allocated $70 million in 2015 to fund that initial 25% share. Since 2013, the state has appropriated well over $500 million to gas line funds, including a $355 million payment in 2014 alone. And I dare say that probably is not even the full scope and extent of the money that's been poured into this. I mean, that doesn't include the the Gia line, the ACES, not ACES. It was Sarah Palin when they were working on that TransCanada, the TransCanada line. I mean, that had some significant investments as well. That was right before the shale boom really popped up and submarined the whole TransCanada line, where they were going to put a line in through Canada and get it down into the lower 48. You remember that? That was probably the last. Well, the last big deal was the Walker China line, but before that, it was the one that was. I mean, we've been going through this for years, folks. We've been going through this for years. Anyway, Nick Fulford, who was asked the question by Bert Stedman about this, like, what do you think Alaska's share is going to be, and isn't this a problem? Essentially, said that. He said that once the final investment decision is made, the state's share may or may not have significant value. And then he said the people to comment on that is Glenfarne or AGDC, and neither one of them reported or responded to requests from KTUU as for comments on it to get a better idea. But that project, it continues to be everything that they're looking at right now. So the Senate Finance Committee is going to continue this morning with HB 2001, and HB 2001 in the House is going to be discussed as well. So again, we'll see where we're at. What are we at? 23 days left in the special session. And we're going to see exactly what it's going to take to get behind this stuff, and whether or not we're going to have a gas line. Now, I mean, fingers crossed. I want a gas line. At the same time, we don't want to give away the farm. But we also don't want to do the Kathy Giesling thing of basically trying to squeeze every available dollar out of it at the same. Everybody's got to make money. Everybody's got to make a little money, right? And that's what we're looking at right now. But I'm sure, like I said, that Ben Carpenter did a deeper dive and analysis on that for his show last night. So we'll get a chance to talk with him here in the second hour today, to see where we're at on this right now. All right. What else? Oh, we got the governor stuff to talk about. We've got the ranked choice voting stuff to talk about, and a few other things as well. Plus, phone lines are open at 319-527-3864. And we got to pay some bills. So we're going to be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Back right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Hello. How are you? Oh, no. As an aside, the zipper machine broke before they could reconfigure the Glen for the morning commute yesterday. That's where they pick up and plop down all the new the cones or the pylons or whatever, where they reconfigure it so that it goes in it. Oh, what a mess. I'm glad I don't make that drive anymore. That drive had there was always something interesting going on there. Luckily, I always dodged the bullet because I either went in super early and did the show from the Anchorage stations, or I went in after the morning rush and did the show afterwards. That was always good, always good. Let's see. Did everyone see that the state is dispatching mobile vax clinics to make sure everyone has a chance to get vaxxed? Yeah, something like $5 million or something. I saw the headline. I didn't read the story, but I saw the headline, Terry. And my question was, what? Why? What's going on? What's happening with that? I don't understand. Anyway, I thought that was I thought that was interesting to see for sure. Anyway, let me go back over here. Cindy said, at this point, I'm not even motivated to buy any flowers. Terry said the same thing. She was just like, she's like, what's the point? What? I mean, granted, it's, we've lost about 3 weeks worth of summer so far. That's about, it's about it. And maybe we'll have lost a month of summer. But I just, I tried to tell her, think about the joy of fully done gardening flowers. And it's hard. I know, Cindy. I know. It's hard. It's, not even motivated to buy any flowers. I feel you for sure. Tawny said, can you say 25% of nothing is zero? That's our share. That's the equity share there. We can also spin off equity to raise money as needed to fix schools and buy more tents for the homeless. Man, there's some serious cynicism running in this chat room this morning. I don't know what's going on. All right. Are we supposed to trust Bert Stedman when the whole of the legislature wants to tank the gas line? I would argue that Stedman, at least, we can dislike what some of the things that Bert Stedman does, but he's been pretty consistent on several things, including trying to get a gas line together and fighting against defined benefits and a few other things. So, I mean, again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with Bert. But yeah, the whole thing just raises some serious questions at this point. All right. Yes, first special session. What about second special session? What about second breakfast? Says Chris. Is it coming? Possibly. I don't know. The legislature wanted to define benefits more than the security of a gas line. Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. Frank says, Ben does not want to hear that I'm not buying flowers. Yeah, exactly. No man's cynicism is in check when the legislature is in session. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. Average bill increase of $45 for GVEA customers. I'm going to have to watch this show at the office and it's going to have to let the company, it's going to have to let the boss pay for the electricity to watch this show. It's pretty tough, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy where we're at right now. All right, let's get back to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay. We are continuing on this morning for this Thursday edition of the show. I gotta say, the chat room is a little cynical this morning. They seem to be a little jaded. And I may have said something about it. And then Brian said, no man's cynicism is in check when the legislature is in session. I think it all started when Cindy said, I'm just not even interested in buying flowers this year. I'm just not even motivated to buy any. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, again, I shouldn't be surprised because Terry was going through the same thing. We were talking about going on down to the Wagon Wheel in Homer, one of our favorite garden stores, and seeing what they had. And I said, okay, you ready to go? And she goes, I'm just not feeling it right now. I'm like, what? It is the weather. I can tell you right now, it is the weather that's got her, because she loves her flowers and she loves what Steve and the crew do down there. And then she'd wanted to go out to Anchor Point to get some of their vegetables, Anchor Point greenhouse, and she had this whole plan. And I think it's just the weather just kind of submarined her, So again, don't let the bastards grind you down. And in this point, it's Mother Nature. It's not the politicians. It's Mother Nature. Don't let her grind you down. All right. Don't let her do it. Go get some flowers. Go get some flowers. Get some beauty and stuff in your life and make it happen. Okay. Sorry. Before I got, they distracted me again. Let's look at what we've got here in front of us this morning. So a couple things. We've got all the bills that failed in the session, and that's actually some good news that we're going to get into and that I want to chortle about as we get going on. But let's take a look at the biggest. I mean, this is my shocked face for those of you who are watching on the video, and for those of you who are listening on the radio, my shocked face looks. Just to picture it right now. This is my shocked face. Rank choice voting architect Scott Kendall files massive APOC complaint against the Repeal Now campaign. I'm shocked, I tell you. I am shocked that Scooter Kendall would file an extensive complaint with APOC against Repeal. I mean, that would never happen. But here we are. A massive multi-page complaint it reads, according to Suzanne Downing, like an all-out legal offensive against ranked choice voting repeal group trying to overturn that process. At the center of the complaint are allegations that Repeal Now and affiliated groups improperly filled out APOC paperwork, used inconsistent addresses, cited incorrect ballot measure identifiers, and failed to perfectly align disclosure filings between multiple entities. The filing repeatedly accuses Repeal Now of deceiving voters while demanding investigations, subpoenas, corrections, audits of bank records, and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in civil penalties. Now, we all know that Scooter Kendall has become the expert in lawfare. We saw him do the same thing with the previous ranked choice voting repeal initiative people, Phil Izon and company and everything that was going on. This new one has got a kind of a stronger, straighter, more streamlined organization, the new repeal effort. And they set it up. I thought it looked like it was set up a lot more properly, and they had the right people involved and everything else. But this is just not a surprise, guys. Scott Kendall has got an agenda. He's had an agenda since he initiated and created the whole Alaska for Better Elections organization. His point and his whole idea and ideology was to make sure that Lisa Murkowski maintained her position in the Senate. And that's what this ranked choice voting was all about. But they are going to find they are literally getting paid to go through all the APOC filings and to find every niggling little problem, or at least argue, remember, they're lawyers, or at least make the argument that these are problems and should be addressed, basically throwing anything that they can into the mix to try and slow this down and to bleed money out of the organization so that they can't utilize that money to highlight and hype up the repeal effort. That's what it's about. One of the primary allegations involves repeal now referencing old ballot measure identifiers, such as 22 AKHE or placeholder numbers, before the Division of Elections had formally assigned a ballot number to the 2026 repeal initiative. So they were basically putting these identifiers in there because they didn't have a number. They didn't have a ballot number involved in it. The complaint claims this reporting area appears repeatedly in APOC filings. Now, here's the thing. If they are at least consistent with the idea, what it's about. To me, again, it's niggling, right? It's nitpicky, which again is what APOC complaints are all about. Usually, it's usually about something very nitpicky. Another major section focuses on donor disclaimer language involving Aurora Action Network, which is a major contributor to the repeal campaign. Kendall argues that Repeal Now improperly described the group as Anchorage-based in campaign disclaimers, even though other filings list a Wisconsin address. Are you tired? Are you tired about this going back? Look, I don't want ranked choice voting. I'm going to vote for the repeal effort. I don't care. It's on the ballot, everything else. But aren't you just tired of this quibbling back and forth of everything that's going on? Oh man. The complaint also dives into alleged discrepancies involving contribution dates, true source disclosures, amended filings, quarterly reports, radio ad disclaimers, Facebook posts, X posts, and even a donor listing that mistakenly referenced Saratoga, Alaska. I don't even know. In one section, the complaint says that because Repeal Now hired experienced APOC compliant consultant Cheryl Frasca, the violations are unlikely to be accidental. They did it on purpose because Frasca was there. They just, she knows what's coming. She worked for the DO. She knows. But I think that Suzanne Downing does summate this very succinctly. She said the filings reflect exactly why many Alaskans have grown weary of the state's increasingly lawyer-driven political system. Endless procedural warfare, technical complaints, and regulatory battles that consume enormous resources while doing little to address the core public debate. Rather than arguing directly to voters about whether ranked choice voting is good for Alaska, Kendall and his allied groups are attempting to bury the repeal effort under compliance complaints, paperwork disputes, and legal costs. Remember, ranked choice voting was originally sold to Alaskans as a way to reduce the political toxicity and restore voter confidence. Instead, politics has become dominated by lawsuits, APOC complaints, recount fights, procedural disputes, and technical election law combat. It's never been more toxic. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. But again, this is my shocked face to find out that Scooter Kendall and company have filed another APOC complaint against the group that wants to repeal the law that Scooter was all about, on his thing there. I'm just kind of shaking my head at this point that this is kind of where we're at on this whole deal. But I'm ready for ranked choice voting to go away. Now, does that mean that they won't try and bring it back? It's possible. I suppose it's a 2-year window, right? I mean, I hate to tell you this, but it's been 6 years since ranked choice voting was originally voted on. 6 years we've been going on under this mess. So no shock to me that they may try and bring it back in a couple of years. But maybe we've learned. Maybe we've learned the difference on something like that. All right. You know what? I don't have enough time to do anything fantastic here in the next 90 seconds. So we're going to just take a break a minute early here, and we're going to be back with more. When we return, Tom Begich has finalized and picked his gubernatorial running mate. What's it look like? About like you'd expect. We'll talk about that here in a minute. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Oh, that and the bullets that we dodged during the last session. That'll be the other thing. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. So, this damn thing. Sorry, I'm having a deal with something. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let me go over here and see what's going on. Good morning. Going to have to build a wood-fired generator, said Rick. A wood gas generator, you just never know. Maybe that's what it's going to take to get it. I mean, wow. Yeah, exactly. Talking to a greenhouse owner, she said people have PTSD from all the wind and crummy weather. It's true. Why does Scooter hate democracy? Well, he's got an agenda. That's what's going on. He's got an agenda. Harold says ranked choice voting is here to stay. I disagree. I think it was so close in the last repeal effort. I think it will probably cross over the finish line this time, but we'll see. We'll see. For sure. Scooter hates everything. That sounds like a band name or something. Scooter hates everything. Angie says weaponizing APOC again. Yeah, that's again, that seems to be the new mandate from APOC. This seems to be what they're about, is being weaponized. Good morning. Les and the mess. Yes, on 2. Removing ranked choice voting this fall is just as important, if not more, than voting for the next governor. I mean, I think it's close. Although I would say that probably voting for governor is the most important thing. But you're right. It's right up there. I mean, it is right up there for sure. All right. And get rid of dark money, says Terry. The issue, says Brian, is never the issue. The issue is always about power. Did we break the Guinness Book of World Records for how many candidates running for governor? No, but I mean, it feels like it, doesn't it? It feels like it's close. Good morning. Or were you thinking dark matter because dark matter matters? Dark money. Anyway, it's get rid of the dark money. I would love to get rid of all the dark money and the outside influence and everything else. But this is just kind of the world we live in. This is where we're at. We got to kind of pull all this together. Why did I leave my own meeting here? Hold, please. What the heck just happened? Why did I leave my own? Let me try this again. I just lost connection to my phone system. I don't know what happened. Uh-oh. Looks like the phone system. Let's try it again.
Thanks so much for calling the Michael Dukes Show.
Okay, so I'm reconnected again. Is that what happened? Apparently, something busted there. So let's make sure that we can get involved, because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say if you want to sound off. And who knows, maybe we'll leave the phones open for Ben too, so Ben can take some questions as well.
All participants are muted.
Hey, look at that. We're back in the system. We're back in the saddle again. There you go. I'm alive and well on Facebook. No, it wasn't the thing. It was the phones. The phones quit working. I got a flashing notification that everything is all good. It wasn't the fake. Thank you for telling me that you could still see and hear me. That's not what I was worried about. I was worried about the phones not working. Not that you guys have called in this morning or anything, but there you go. Okay. You ready? 40 seconds, 35 seconds right now. We're going to jump into this, and we're going to get things ready to rock and roll. Thank you for coming in board. 45, 50. How many on Rumble? Another 5 on Rumble. Yep. Another 5 on Rumble. So like 50, 55 people watching right now. You know what I'm going to tell you. It's only 10 likes. I don't know how many shares. It's only 10 likes out of 50. Them's is not some good. That's not a real good ratio there. I'm just saying, maybe you should just reach over and mash that little button. It would help. Here we go.
That don't question our recipes. The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay. Let's take a crack at this here, shall we? And see what else is going on. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the latest in the gubernatorial race. Former Senate Minority Leader and the leading, I would argue, the leading Democratic gubernatorial candidate, Tom Begich, has now announced his new running mate, his lieutenant governor. He was in Fairbanks yesterday, and he made the announcement that Julia Hanilka, I'm sorry. Julia Hanilka is now the new lieutenant governor candidate for Tom Begich. Now, if you're from the interior, you probably heard her name before. She ran for the she ran for House District 6 back in 2020. She was the one that originally ran against Mike Kronk when he was running for the House 6 years ago. And so you probably recognize her name. Initially, she was born and raised in Nenana. And most recently, she was working for the Biden administration as the state director for what was she? She was the state director of the USDA, the rural. Let me read the official. I want to read the official title to make sure that I don't screw it up. She worked as the project manager for Fedco from 21 to 22. Before that, she was a teaching assistant at the UAF, Department of Alaska Native Studies and Rural Development. And she was working for the Biden administration for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. She was the state director for rural development for the USDA. She also worked briefly as a director of APIRG, which is the left-leaning public interest research group. So again, marking off all the boxes for everybody out there. Another unknown in the race. So I found that to be kind of interesting that, I mean, she's known in certain circles, but definitely not reaching across any real gaps or aisles. So Julia Hanilka is with Tom Begich. Of course, Click Bishop had Greta Swartz, and you've got Blake Geddes with Shelley Hughes, Josh Church with Dave Bronson. You got Mike Shower with Bernadette Wilson, and author Hank Kroll has got Tommy Nicholson, which I'm not familiar with basically either one of them. But that still leaves 11 that do not have running mates. Now, apparently, Matt Clayman is going to be announcing today who his running mate is. He's already made the decision. The decision's made, and he's going to be making that announcement later tonight. So that will leave us with only 10 candidates that don't have a running mate. I imagine that Jonathan Christ Tompkins will probably have a campaign, or will probably have a running mate as well pretty quick. He's been running a pretty hot campaign. I know, because I'm on his texting list, apparently. I don't know if he himself put my number on his texting list, because usually I don't have those things. But, man, I've been getting every text from his campaign, which I find interesting. I mean, it's irritating, but I also find it interesting to get a look at what's going on out there. But he's been pushing pretty hot and heavy, so I imagine that he will have a running mate. What I'm going to find interesting is whether Adam Crum, Treg Taylor, or Matt Halala, if they get running mates by Monday. What's going on there? I know Mayor Edna DeVries is also needs to get one, but again, Adam Crum, Treg Taylor, Are they going to join forces? Is there enough flexibility in the egos there for one of them to take the rumble seat in the back? I don't know. Who else you got? You got Bruce Walden, Jessica Faircloth from Kasiloff, Meta DeWitt, Nancy Dahlstrom. What's going on with Nancy Dahlstrom too? I mean, I'll be honest with you, it almost feels like Nancy Dahlstrom is just running because it was expected of her. Not like she's really in it to win it, but just kind of like it was just expected of her. So she's just pro forma, going through the motions. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. But anyway, so we'll see. Monday is the day. Matt Clayman's supposed to announce tonight. So Tom Begich announced yesterday. And that will leave Dahlstrom, Crum, Taylor, Clayman. Oh, Clayman's tonight. Hey, Lala, James Parkin, Bruce Walden, Jessica Faircloth, and Meta DeWitt without a running mate. I just can't wait to see what kind of combinations and transformations we're going to see here as they try to come together and put it all together. Yeah, I mean, again, Nancy she's very much acting the classic NPC at this point. She's just there to because it was what it was expected of her. It was what was expected of her. Okay. What was the final thing? Oh, the final thing was the things that we have to be thankful for. Count your blessings, my friends. Count your freaking blessings. 685 bills introduced in the 2-year legislative cycle. They began last January a year ago. 114 of those passed. That means 1 out of every 6 bills. This is from Mary Carnegie and Iris Samuels over at the ADN. And they've got a list of some of the big ones that didn't make it. And I'm pretty excited about this list. I'm pretty excited about the things that didn't pass. Plenty of measures fell by the wayside, including a fiscal plan for the governor, a bill that gives Alaskans the right to repair, and more. And here are several measures that failed to pass this year. The one biggie that, of course, we've been talking about on this program for multiple years is a fiscal plan. We still don't have a fiscal plan, folks. And there is no will. It appears to be that there is no will to, well, hell, not even solidify, to even come up with a real fiscal plan. I was going to say to solidify a fiscal plan. They don't really have anything to work with. I mean, there's been some things that have been brought up, and, Ben Carpenter and company tried to do some stuff. But, I mean, again, we're nowhere even close to it. The governor had his own fiscal plan, which they immediately threw into a drawer after a couple of hearings. They immediately just threw it into the bottom of a drawer and said, see ya. It's all good. All right. So no fiscal plan. Again, not a surprise for those of us who have watched the Juneau Clown Posse do their thing over the course of the years. There was a bill about electronic pull tabs. It was an effort to legalize that, sponsored by Jesse Bjorkman from Nikiski, who said it was needed for Alaska nonprofits that depended on the revenue from charitable gaming. And it didn't pass. It passed the Senate, but it never made it to a vote in the House. And he said that was because of concerns raised by owners of businesses that sell pull tabs. And I don't know exactly why, but again, do I care about that? Not really. Right to repair. That was considered a bill that would establish a right to repair for consumer electronics. And it would require manufacturers to provide consumers and independent repair shops with access to replacement parts, repair tools, software, and manuals for products like phones, laptops, and other digital devices. And they moved it when it came from committee. They amended it to only apply to consumer electronics and not large equipment, which I think, again, is a mistake. But, this is one of those things. But Forrest Dunbar, who again said that the House leadership decided not to move the bill to a floor vote, saying that it would face too much debate in the final days of session. Garrett Nelson was apparently planning to introduce a bunch of amendments to the bill. He said he wasn't intent to kill the bill, but he had a few amendments to address issues he saw with it, including the wide scope of products included under the legislation and potential violation of intellectual property rights. I'd like to hear what Garrett has to say about that. That would be an interesting thing. There was a marijuana taxation update. It was currently taxed at $50 per ounce, but they wanted to transition the structure to a 6% of sales tax instead, which would basically move the burden from producers to consumers. I hate to tell you this, but consumers pay everything anyway. I mean, I hate to say that. House leadership decided not to bring the bill to the floor because there was disagreements on it as well. The big one, though, the constitutional amendment for a dedicated education fund. That's right, a dedicated fund for public education. This would have put it as a vote before the people. The resolution passed the Senate 17-3 and was scheduled to come before the House on the final day of session, but ultimately it died. It was not voted on. It just makes me so happy. So happy. They also put forward a resolution to propose an amendment to the Constitution to lower the threshold for overriding the governor's vetoes. Currently, it's a 3/4 vote, and they wanted to bring it back to 2/3. Matt Clayman and company were arguing about it. It passed the Senate 14-6, but it didn't receive a hearing in the House Finance Committee, which is where it was supposed to go. So that's the good one. There was a mental health crisis funding bill as well, an insurance to cover year-long birth control supply. There was a vote on banning masks on law enforcement. That didn't pass either. And the daylight savings time. Those are all things that didn't pass. Be happy. Be happy about it. Hour 2 dead ahead. But they did get the state cabbage bill across the line. I mean, there you go. No, I'm just looking at these. I'm just looking at all these bills. The daylight savings time stalled in the House after it passed out of the Senate. I mean, that would have been, that would have been interesting. The banning the mask on law enforcement. This is an anti-ICE thing, right? Yeah. I think it's, again, you got to find the wins where you can find them, folks. And I think these were all, most of these falling apart. The only one that I have questions on is the right to repair bill. I'm interested to see what Garrett Nelson has to say about that, because in my mind's eye, I think it's, I think it is, I think it's important to be able to repair your own stuff. So anyway, it's it should be interesting to see what that's all about. And a fiscal plan, come on. We've been trying to get a fiscal plan in this state for years. Speaking of fiscal plans, let's bring up the architect of the attempted architect Is that even a thing? Attempting to architect? He was attempting to architect. That's what he was doing. Ben Carpenter, our guest here on the old program. Hello, my friend. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing great, Michael. Fiscal plans are scary things for the legislature.
I mean, I guess they just, they don't even, they'll forget about talking about it. It just seems like they want to avoid it at all costs. Any kind of discussion that would change their deal or whatever, it just seems like they want to avoid it at all costs. There's no discussion. The governor puts out a plan. They poo-poo it and then throw it in a drawer after 2 meetings, and there you go, right?
Yeah. There is a plan. They are working it.
Yeah, the plan is no plan. No plan. Not having a plan is, in fact, a plan when it's all said and done.
It's the statutes we want to follow and the statutes we don't. That's all the plan.
Right. There is a thing there. Pardon me. So did you get a chance? Have you been following the special session? I did not watch your show last night. I'm sorry. I was tired. I've had a bit of an earache the last couple of days, and I was trying to get a little extra sleep to fix my body here. But did you get a chance to kind of go over some of the meetings that happened yesterday?
It was actually refreshing. I have reviewed both of the committee meetings, mostly the first hour of Senate Finance and a little bit of the second hour. I'll get caught up today, and then they'll add a couple more hours on. Anyway, yeah. So it is more of the Gaffney Klein presentation that has occurred in some of the other committees. I think it's refreshing. And we can get into this on the, when the show starts, but it's refreshing to see legitimate questions, legitimate by means of people who are actually considering the bill and don't want to kill the bill. And they're actually asking good questions, right?
Well, you're not getting down into the discussion of what is a condensate. Should we discuss that and talk about it?
Senate Resources did Alaskans a disservice.
Yeah.
Like they bungled this up.
Yeah. No, it was refreshing to watch, and I thought that there were some good questions from what I saw. Like I said, I spent about an hour reviewing all 3 hours plus of that meeting from yesterday. And like you said, today they're going to start again, and I'm going to be way behind again. I haven't been following the House side. Did you follow the House side at all on that?
No. The power structures in the Senate. So
yeah. I didn't even bother to look at it, quite honestly, but I did get through the Senate stuff. Somebody had said to me that Bert Stedman got a little snarky, and I never saw him get snarky at all. I thought he brought up some good questions, and so it'll be interesting to get your take on it, and then to see where we're at when it's all said and done. So we'll get started with you here in just a second. All right, so relax, grab your cup of Joe, and I'll be back to you here in just a minute. Okay? Look at you. God, I wish I had a cup of coffee right now. I don't have a cup of coffee right now. Okay, folks, like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. Is there anything that I missed that they can't, that we didn't hear? Hannon brought up the mask nonsense. Yep. Tawny said, oh boy, the cabbage. And this is why future investment will not come to Alaska. What a joke. Said, did any of those bills make Alaskans' lives any better or just cost us more money? The guys, it's, Walden dropped out. When did he drop out? I did not hear that he dropped out. Bruce Walden dropped out. Well, I imagine we'll probably have another couple of those happen between now and Monday. Maybe we'll get Ben's take on that. Maybe we'll get Ben's take on what he sees happening in the governor's race as well. Because again, the one I'm watching is the whole Crum, Taylor, Hailala. Do any of those guys join forces? I just don't know. I just don't know. All right, we got to go. Let's get back to it. Here we go. Hour 2 is right now, The Michael Duke Show.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. Show me your papers before you come watch my show. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. It's the Thursday. I don't even know where that came from, man. So many voices in my head. I'm never sure which one to listen to. That was obviously the wrong one this morning. Anyway, welcome back to hour 2 of the Big Radio Show for Thursday. We are here broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on your favorite radio station and or FM translator. And we're also broadcasting live on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com with the audio only stream. The podcasts are available there, the link, and of course, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. If you want to go out and watch, see the beard flapping this morning, you can come in here and join us. Hour 2 of the Thursday edition of the show, we've been having Ben Carpenter come on here the last few weeks. Why? Well, because I like Ben. I think he's a friend, and I enjoy his commentary. I enjoy his analysis, and I enjoy helping him out, highlighting his brand new show called Oversight Live. Now, brand new. It's been going on for, 2 or 3 months now, this entire session. Oversight Live, which you can find over at YouTube, youtube.com/@OversightLive, or on X or Facebook as well, where he dissects the hot news of the day from the legislature. He goes through the meetings. He puts a lot of work into it. He puts a lot of work into it. And yes, he does, like me, occasionally go down a few rabbit holes. It does happen. It's what happens when you're thinking a lot about this kind of stuff. Anyway, we're going to jump into it here with Ben Carpenter. I want to get his take on the end of the session. And then he did tell me during the break that he did watch yesterday's Gaffney Klein presentation and everything else. And so he's got some thoughts on that. And I just thought it would be fun to figure out what he's all about. So without any other fervor, let's jump over here and see what Ben Carpenter has to say with us this morning. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. It's always a challenge when you do a live show to figure out which voice you're going to listen to, right?
Oh my Lord.
Because you can't take it back.
Yeah, no, it is. You can't edit that out. You can't edit that out. But it is one of those things for sure. Okay, Ben. So I guess, we had just last Thursday, they had just finished with the session, and they hadn't even gavelled in yet on the special session, which they then did, and then abruptly left for the weekend and came back, right? Most of the legislature is not even coming back until the 6th of June. And so I guess we'll do this chronologically. Any final thoughts on the regular session, since now we've seen some of the other bills that got kind of lumped in at the very end that they didn't really come to the light of day until a week later. And then any thoughts on the beginning of the special session before we get into some of these latest meetings?
Yeah. One of the takeaways that I take away from the end of the session is how many bills got passed in the final hours after you have a 24-hour rule in effect. That's after the
right.
operating budget goes to your conference committee, and then you don't have to give a 5-day notice to the public as to which notification for bills, and so you can just move things a whole lot faster. And it seems like that's the strategy for getting a lot of these bills done, is just do it in the final hours once we don't have to scrutinize them as much. And now you've got a whole list of bills that make it to the governor's desk, And that's what we're looking at now. On the 20th, Governor vetoed Representative Mina's bill about public community transit plans. And I'm sure that list is probably going to grow. There's probably some bills there that he's going to allow to go through or sign. Not exactly sure. I haven't had any conversation with anybody about what his plans are or thinking on that matter, but just kind of reading, obviously the bills that are pro forma bills, the extension of boards and commissions those are going to, either be signed or allowed to go into law. And so some of the on the list are going to be approved, but some of them undoubtedly will not. And I guess it's safe to say that we're going to have a state cabbage as the official state vegetable. I think that because of where that came from and the governor's supportive of agriculture in general, that we will have a state cabbage. And
I mean, that's important, Ben. Come on, that was a lot of hard work went into that cabbage bill, man.
We don't have a state pipeline yet, but we'll have a state cabbage, by God.
I was watching that whole debate and everything, and I'm just like, okay, guys, I mean, couldn't this be done at the last minute? Does it need to be? I mean, how much time are we, what? But again, it didn't matter because it wasn't until the very end that they were going to start to get to this. They were going to get serious about this pipeline stuff anyway. So I guess it really doesn't matter. Of all the bills that didn't pass, having if the cabbage bill passed and prevented the mask bill or the dedicated special ed or dedicated education fund or what are the, if it took up enough time to not allow those other bills to be passed, I'm okay with the cabbage bill. All right. I guess that's how I'm trying to be glass half full guy here.
Yeah, it's obviously Representative Johnson knew that she was going to catch flack for it because she spoke about that specifically on the floor as they're talking about it. Is she recognizes she's going to get flack for having a cabbage bill of all things make it through.
Right.
It's just it's incredibly hard as a minority member. You're not in the conversations and you don't get to drive the agenda and you're kind of beholden to the good graces of the majority as to what bills they want to prioritize of yours. Right. And it's really easy to say, yeah, we'll give you a cabbage bill. You're not going to get a whole lot of traction on that for re-election, right? But the larger point here is that you've got an entire session. Many of these bills could have been addressed earlier in the session, and they weren't for various reasons, right? So why rush and wait until the end and rush at the end? Well, because there's an incentive for doing that. It means we have less scrutiny. We can rush. We don't have to do as much. Justification on things because they can be passed with fewer questions and fewer amendments and that type of thing. You just don't have the bandwidth to focus on things.
Right. Well, and less research, right? I mean, sometimes you get bills in there that don't even have really true fiscal notes, right? You've got no public input. You don't have to be bothered by those pesky voters making comments on it and changing it and everything else. This is what Rob Myers has been talking about. We have to change the incentives in the structure, but they're incentivized to do this, to bring some of these bills and hold them to the very last minute. We saw that with the parental leave bill, right? That was stuffed into one of the other bills at the last minute, another tax bill that was really unrelated in the long run, but they saw that it wasn't going to make it across the line on its own, and they'd stripped out the mandatory sick leave for small business and seasonal workers, and they knew that was going to be a problem. So they fixed it by just stripping out the parental leave part and stuffing it into another bill without any fervor, fanfare, without any public input or anything else. And so again, it just shows when it pays off for them, they'll continue to do it.
Well, we have to remind ourselves here that you can create a rule that would address this. Maybe you could argue that, well, if you just get rid of the 24-hour rule, then you're not incentivized to wait until the 24-hour rule period to start pushing legislation, right? Well, if that's what the legislature needs is to be able to cobble together a bunch of bills at the end in order to make things work, then they'll just waive whatever rule that they have, the majority will, and that will allow them to move forward. So there is no substitute for sending people to Juneau, to the legislature, either Juneau or Washington, D.C. for that matter. The legislature is the highest authority in the land. And so if you send people that are willing to do things like this, they're willing to govern in this manner, then don't be surprised when that's what they do. That is the outcome that you're going to get, is the pass bills by manipulation and pass bills by reducing it's just a structure issue, right? We're just going to use our structure to our advantage, and we're not going to do things that are you would classify as good governance. We're just not going to do that because it's easier to not do it.
Right. Well, it's easier to get things done our way, and it's easier.
It's the hard right over the easy wrong.
Yeah.
That is,
no,
that's it in a nutshell, right?
And how many times again have we talked about time compression as a weapon? They've honed it to a fine point, Ben. They've used it and they know how to use it. We saw the same thing, Stedman utilizing leveraging one bill against another, and that worked for a few years. And he's been, they've been doing that now, writing contingencies and doing so, whatever will work for them to be able to get it done, they will, and rewards them, they'll continue to do it. And since this last minute stuff has been working for them, I'm sure we'll see it until somebody with some actual ethics and chutzpah gets in there and tries to change it. Not that they may be able to, but we'll see. What were some of the ones that really stood out there at the last minute that caught your attention, Ben?
Of the bills that need to get vetoed, that got passed?
The bills that got passed there at the very end, and then the bills that need to get vetoed.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one that is catching the most flack in the public's eye is this 195, the pharmacy bill. I think that is one that probably needed some more attention to it and a little bit more transparency, because there's a flurry of information out there regarding this bill, and it didn't look like it was properly. They didn't spend enough time explaining things to the public on that bill. That is probably top on the list. Yeah, for that. Well, on that list,
there's a lot of information flying around out there, and I was like, well, wait a second, is it not? Because there was some misinformation apparently, and again, I haven't done the reading into the actual details of the bill, but I saw that somebody said, well, it allows for milprifizone, whatever the abortion drug is. It allows that to be. And then other people were like, no, it doesn't. And again, there was a lot of questions on it. And this thing passed in the dead of night. I didn't even really hear that this bill was even up there to be discussed. And at the last minute, all of a sudden it got forced through, and there's a lot of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. So what was your take on it? Did you get a chance to look at it?
Honestly, no, I didn't put a whole lot of time and effort into the pharmacy bill. It hasn't been something that's been on my on my radar much. I spent a little bit more time on this fisheries bill that's Senate Bill 130. It's an interesting comparison, because we're having a conversation about pipeline taxes and economic development, and here you have a fisheries tax bill and talking about economic development with the fisheries, and you've got the same people in Senate Resources approving an adjustment to taxes and allowing companies to write off more of their expenses towards their taxes in the fisheries industry. But over here in the oil industry, we don't ever want to have them be able to write off more of their taxes on a gas line that they would owe on the oil side, right?
We want to drag that conversation out for 2 months, but hey, fisheries taxes, just pencil whip that thing and send it out the door.
Let's grow our fisheries industry, but let's not grow our oil industry. We don't want to do that. I mean, it's just absurd that the hypocrisy is the way to put it, is you just have anyway, I was trying to find an opportunity here to draw the comparison between the two, because the legislature should be caring about both of those, right? But on the oil side, you've got one part of the legislature, you got the Senate Resources Committee, that is not caring about, they're going the opposite direction. They're trying to kill economic activity on the North Slope. That's the only way that you can describe what's happening in Senate resources.
Right. Although, I mean, the fisheries are a resource and they should have been just as concerned about fisheries resources as they were about oil resources. But of course, that wasn't working.
Both of those sectors of the economy have a tax component, meaning a component to the budget at the state level. So on one hand, yes, we want to see the tens of millions increase in the fishing industry, but the hundreds of millions, we're not so much concerned about.
Yeah, exactly. Ben Carpenter is our guest. He's the host of Oversight Live, which you can find on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We're going to talk about the bills that he would like to see vetoed here in just a moment. We will continue with that here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with Ben Carpenter right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Ben just got back from his 10-mile run. He did? Was it a 10-mile run? Did you run 10 miles?
Yeah, I'm not running anymore these days, and I'm not putting rucksacks on my back and marching or hiking anywhere.
Exactly.
There's some lines in the sand that I've drawn.
Tim asks a question that I think Ben is uniquely qualified to answer. He says, how does anyone vote on a bill and not know what they're voting on? Big issue with this. You have no right to make an uninformed vote on behalf of the people. He's talking about these last minute things. Again, we have to pass to find out what's in it kind of attitude. How does that happen, Ben? I mean, do these people really understand if these bills are coming out with less than 10 hours to spare? I know it's a 24-hour rule, but we know how that works. 11 o'clock the night before they announce they're going to have a meeting at 8 a.m. the next morning to cover this bill. That, qualifies technically as being the 24 hours previous. But I mean, how does that happen? How do these people vote on bills? We've seen whole budgets get substituted and dropped on legislators' desks 90 minutes before they're supposed to make a vote on it.
Yeah,
with a complete substitute budget. Like this is 100%. The title is the same. Everything else is different. We voted 90 minutes. Have a nice day. How does that happen?
Well, if a legislator is using their staff appropriately, the staff, they can lean on them for an assessment on a particular bill. You have to understand, like from my experience when I was in the minority, I served on finance. So the only bills that I had direct knowledge of that I participated in during the committee process are those bills that came through finance, which tended to be a lot of bills, right? So there was a broad swath of bills that I saw. But there were some bills that never came through finance. They went through the other committee process. So the example that I'm showing is that you've got a handful of bills, maybe it's a lot of bills that don't come through my committee, and then if they make it to the floor, then I have to make a decision, yes or no, on whether to pass the bill. But it never came through my committee, so I never participated in the question and answer and the vetting of that bill. So I either have to trust my fellow legislators, which is risky to do, or I trust my staff, which is maybe less risky because I picked my staff, right? If I've got good staff, then maybe they can provide me an assessment on something that I didn't personally participate in. Now, during the regular session, where you've got a 5-day notice for a bill that's going to come up on the floor or in a committee meeting or something, there's more time for you as the legislator to fill your head with the specifics on any particular bill. But during the window of where we see the flurry of bills passing right at the end of the session, where you've got a dozen bills on the agenda on the floor, and you've got 24 hours notice. So how do you understand what's happening with a dozen different bills, half of them maybe never came through your committee, or maybe more than half. How do you do that? It is a lot of work and a lot of detail. You have to be able to lean on your staff to give good advice and bring you up to speed. And hopefully you've got good teammates in your caucus and your the people who you associate with within the legislature that you can trust in this regard. And sometimes that's what you do. You trust the people who worked on the resources committee. You trust the transportation committee to have vetted the bill. And you've developed a relationship over a couple of years with the people there. You kind of know what they're going to support and what they're not going to support. So does that match what your constituents want? Yes. If it does, then you've got an easier way to just trust what they have done in committee and take an appropriate vote to support them. Right. Or maybe not. Maybe that representative or that group doesn't represent what your constituents would want, and therefore you maybe would scrutinize or not trust. So it's difficult. It puts you in a difficult spot to take votes on bills that you've never had a personal stake in.
685 bills over that 2-year window. I mean, it's hard to keep track of it all. I guarantee. Yeah.
Many of those bills are companion bills, or some of them are companion bills, so they would be the same bill. It is very safe to say that you've got well over 300 bills.
We got to jump back in.
Sure.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Yes, I am. Pain in the show. Welcome back, Ben Carpenter, our guest here on the program, host of Oversight Live, former representative from up in the Upper Kenai there. Ben, you said you've been watching some of the bills that got passed at the last minute, and you have some hopes that the governor is going to veto some of them. What are the ones that stand out to you that you hope that the governor is going to apply the red pen to in this case?
Yeah, really the only one that I really have good knowledge on is this pharmacy bill. And I would hope that he vetoes that one. As I look at the list, I can't say with any certainty what, like, I didn't participate in the process. I haven't researched the bills. There's just not enough there for me to comment on which ones that I would want to have vetoed and or passed into law. I mean, I can look at the sponsors of the bills and I can say, well, I probably would not be voting for a bill that this person brings forward, because I know that they're probably bringing something forward that I'm not going to agree with. So school nutrition, prohibiting food dyes and Senator Wielechowski brought this forward. Okay, well, let's prohibit food dyes in food in the schools. Okay, what does that mean? It means something. You're going to raise the cost of food because you're going to buy different food, but does it mean that we're going to be healthier? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would support that. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know.
We have no idea at this point what's going on. So
I have no idea.
Sometimes you have to look at the sponsor and make a decision based on that alone, right?
I am concerned about the pharmacy bill from a perspective that I think there's value in having a doctor who has our healthcare system's broken, right? But in a working system, a doctor that knows me and knows my current my health situation and is making decisions about what drugs I take based on that history and that personal relationship. Whereas a pharmacy, I walk up to the counter and I have a conversation with the pharmacist, and they have not treated me for other issues and other, the relationship doesn't exist there with regard to other healthcare decisions. And they're now going to be authorized to prescribe medication. Whereas the old system where I grew up in is the pharmacist just fills the prescriptions. They don't actually prescribe. So the doctor that you're actually spending the time with is the one that has the authority or the responsibility to make sure that you're taking the appropriate thing with with regard to your whole overall health. So I think that going that direction is advantageous for the pharmacist for sure. But is it advantageous for us as a society to have that? It's almost a check and a balance here, right? Is it advantageous to do away with that? And just from my perspective, I think that that's probably not something that we should entertain at this point.
Well, especially without the public input and everything else. I mean, again, I wasn't even aware that this bill was even making its way through it hadn't even gotten on the radar. You know what I mean? So at the last minute, and if I hadn't heard about it, I'm assuming that the average Joe out there probably knew nothing about it as well. So again, further discussions probably required on that. All right, well, let's move on to the special session. You said you got a chance to watch some of the Senate meeting yesterday. Assuming you've been watching the last couple of days here. What's your takeaway so far in the special session, especially with the Senate version SB 2001? What's your takeaway with this process so far?
Well, my initial takeaway is it's refreshing to have conversations in committee about the bill that's being presented and the topic with what appears to be, and maybe it's just better showmanship. It might be. You're dealing with a chairman and a couple of members of the committee that have been in the legislature for a very long time. So maybe they're just better showmen. But it appears that they're actually doing their due diligence on a bill and giving it due consideration. Whereas what we saw in Senate Resources was the exact opposite. There was a flavor of due diligence, but honestly, it didn't pass the scrutiny test. You're asking questions and going down paths that have nothing to do with the bill, and it's only tangentially related, meaning you're talking about something in the oil industry, and therefore it seems pertinent, but it's not. It doesn't help the bill move forward, and it doesn't help Alaskans understand the issue and the situation with regard to the bill. And at the end of the day, you're just like, you must not want this bill to pass because you're not actually addressing the things that need to be addressed. In Senate Finance, you're actually seeing the issues get addressed and the questions being asked. And it's a good, educated conversation between Nick Fulford at this point with Gaffney Klein as the subject matter expert, as the legislature's paid consultant to provide advice to the legislature. Right. Even though there's a twinge of conflict of interest there, because after they were selected as consultants, their parent company is now part of the process of the project. So right. you do have to take it with a grain of salt here, or at least somewhat be skeptical, but at least there's good conversations going on with regard to the questions that are being asked by the and there's honesty, right? I mean, you see both Senator Stedman and Senator Keel acknowledge that a gas pipeline doesn't mean anything to their district, but tapping into the Treasury for cost overruns, that matters to their district.
Right.
So
right.
we better make sure that that's not going to happen. But, I've got Senator Keel makes a good point. I've got family that lives in Anchorage. So I obviously would like them to have a benefit from this pipeline. So I see that the project is getting a better look, a more honest look in Senate Finance. And from the little bit that I watched at House Finance, I think to a certain extent, yes, but the questions aren't nearly as pertinent or as good a questions in House Finance as they are in Senate Finance.
As you look at this and you watch, again, it is a night and day difference to watch. I mean, having watched several of the meetings from the Senate Resources Committee and watched the meeting here from Senate Finance, I could say it is a night and day difference in the questions that are being asked. Obviously, it's not trying to drag the thing through the weeds and get off on tangents and everything else. It looks like the Senate Finance Committee is dedicated to getting something passed. What do you think the possibility is here of actually finding some common ground to the point to where we might be able to offer Glen Farms some kind of tax relief? I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how much it is yet. But what are your thoughts on whether or not this is actually going to produce anything at the end of 30? I know we're early days into it here, but at the end of 30 days, what do you think?
Yeah. If it boils down to just pure politics, then it's going to be close, because you just run the numbers of the committee, right? And those that appear to be supportive of some sort of a solution versus those that could have ulterior motives for why they would not want to see a pipeline built, it's going to be close, right? I mean, is Senator Merrick going to support what eventually comes out of, or is the byproduct of the deliberation in the committee? That is a legitimate question. If her husband was interested in and part of an organization that was competing with Glenfarne for part of the project, right, or for putting the project forward. This is prior to Glenfarne being awarded the project. Okay.
Right.
So
right.
if her husband was working with former Governor Walker to put together a group of union-led organization that would build the pipeline, is she in favor of this project, or is she in favor of letting this project go by the wayside and then the next in line gets to take it? Right. I don't know. Those are things that probably are never going to be on the record.
Right.
The Democrat Party wants to see oil and gas go away in the state. So you have to question the Democrats that are on the committee, Senator Keel being one of them, whether they want to see the pipeline built. Others like the other two, Senator Olson and Senator Hoffman, their districts they're not going to be part of the pipeline either. They're not going to benefit from it. They're out in Western Alaska, northern Alaska. So why would they care?
Unless there's revenue, right? I mean, unless there is some form of revenue that comes to the state.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it is hard to tell from my perspective, and I think for most Alaskans looking at it, whether you've got the right people at the table who are going to care that this project moves forward. And I hope that at a bare minimum, the legislature says we're going to protect Alaskans. I don't want cost overruns to come on to Alaskans. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And Glenfarne is assuring us that that's not what's going to happen. We just need to assure that. We need to assure that there's local supply of gas along the pipeline for people for in-state use, because that's
right.
That is something that may or may not be guaranteed. We need to make sure that that's guaranteed. We need to be able to benefit. And I think this is the thing that needs to shift in the conversation in the legislature from resources, Senate resources and House resources, is benefit of the pipeline is to economic growth primarily. And secondarily, it's whatever comes to the state coffers in the form of taxes. That is what we need to see, what I would like to see a shift in recognizing the value that the long-term value to Alaskans and economic growth of the pipeline being built is the primary benefit that we have with the building of the pipeline. The secondary benefit is additional taxation and revenue to the state.
Well, but you've been a legislator, and you understand how your fellow legislators think. Most legislators don't think in those terms. They don't think of in the maximum benefit terms, talking about the state constitution, developing the resources to the maximum benefit. They don't think about it as economic growth, or how does it affect the community, or the knock-on effects of cheaper energy, et cetera, et cetera. To them, it's all about how much money gets into the state coffer. I mean, that was truly on display with Kathy Giesel and company. That's all they wanted to. I mean, Matt Clayman, $1 billion is just not enough, right? Was his comment in the committee. So, is there a possibility of that alternate idea of the economic growth and the knock-on effects being more important than how much money the state makes? Is that a possibility, or are we?
Senator Stedman brought it up. He said, the pipeline doesn't mean anything to my district because we're not going to have gas in my district, right? He's from the Panhandle, Southeast Alaska. But he said, I recognize that a gas pipeline is going to increase oil production in Alaska on the North Slope. And that benefits my district because there's more economic activity and more oil revenue flowing to the state coffers. So I think there is an opportunity for members to focus, just where they choose to focus. If they want to focus, if they want to find reasons to scuttle the project, then they can find reasons. But if they want to find reasons for why this is going to benefit Alaskans, then they can find those too. It is a perfect opportunity for Alaskans to focus their attention on a handful of legislators, right? The committee members, and present them with feedback that says, I want you to prioritize the economic benefits of all of Alaska, of our private economy, over revenue generating measure, right? It is that attitude I want you to take into this protect Alaskans, make sure we've got gas, protect us to make sure that we've got as low a cost gas as we can, and make that your priority. That is a message that Alaskans need to send to your legislature immediately.
Ben Carpenter is our guest, host of Oversight Live, which you can find on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We're going to continue here in just a moment with him. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Ben Carpenter is our guest. Some interesting questions from the chat room. Brian says, how can you take an equity position and not assume liability? If you want big boy money, you have to take big boy risks.
That is a great question.
Yeah, I mean, it's really at the heart of what we've been talking about as far as this equity position and everything. What's your thoughts?
The first hour yesterday broached the subject of 25% ownership in the project, which is really what it is the state's got 25% ownership in 8 Star, which has the subsidiaries that would actually build the project, right? So, but there's no value in those companies that exist. There's nothing on the balance sheet. There's no equity. There's nothing there. They're just a company, a shell in name only, right? But as soon as a final investment decision is made, then there's money that pours into those companies, and then they purchase things, and they are now have value, right? That's what we own 25% of. 25% of nothing right now is what we own. As soon as there's a final investment decision, the question then becomes, what does your ownership mean? Usually, if you are a owner, it means that you bring capital, you bring an investment, you bring skin in the game. Glenfarne is going to go out and accrue debt to bring to the table to build the pipeline. The state of Alaska's ownership of these entities for 25% is going to have to mean the same thing at some level if they want to maintain that ownership status, right? What Senator Stedman was pointing out is there are other entities out there that aren't Glenfarne that may look at this and say, okay, well, this, now that the FID's been made, we want to be project co-owners. We want to invest in the project, and we're going to bring our equity in. And as they come in and bring in equity into this in agreement with Glenfarne, then they become co-owners, and it squeezes that 25% down to less than 25% or zero. If we don't put any money in, we don't have any skin in the game. You don't
Right.
get to maintain ownership status and not have money at stake here, right?
Yeah.
And this is where we would be, and what Nick Fulford was saying is that the cost, the risk, who bears the cost? Sorry, who bears the risk in cost overruns? It is the financiers and it is the owners. So if we are 25% owners and we put in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to be owners and help build the project, then we would own a portion of the risk of cost overruns.
Right. He talked about big balance sheets and Stedman was talking about these companies bringing in big balance sheets, and we don't have one for ours. So it doesn't mean a lot. So we would have to put money in, and then it would expose us. And in fact, he asked about the overruns on the Canadian project, and Fulford didn't have any answers on that at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see, because Glenfarne just assures us that they won't have any cost overruns.
Yeah,
But
of course they're going to say that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but we know in a perfect world that would be true, but we know in the real world that is definitely not a possibility. But I thought it was an interesting question from Brian on that as well. Rick says, if this does not go through, will big business ever invest here? The state is getting basically getting a history of just saying no.
Well, especially if you're talking about oil and gas development on the North Slope, I think the answer is probably no. Like, it's incentive. It would be hard for me. It would be hard looking at it from an industry perspective, which I'm not part of the industry, but if I was part of the industry and I'm looking at Alaska and I'm saying all of the things that have to be lined up in order for a gas pipeline to get built, the next guy coming in, if Glenfarne fails, the next guy coming in that says, oh, they approach the investors and they say, hey, we've got this idea about a gas pipeline in Alaska. And the investors are going to be like, yeah, we saw that. You have to go through the legislature, and we're not going to, we find that there is very, very low likelihood that you're going to be successful at that, overcoming that hurdle.
Essentially, so, good luck with that is what they're saying.
Like the industry, like, yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see a gas pipeline in Alaska. So we're not, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going to put myself in that position. So,
geez, fool me the 14th time, shame on me. That's where we're at right now. It's like, I mean, it's been dozens of times in various configurations. If we can't get this done this time, it's looking pretty grim beyond this time.
The flip side of that coin is the amount of gas that we know about on the North Slope is a staggering amount of gas. So there is this giant opportunity. There's this giant potential that has yet to be realized. And all it takes is a high enough cost of gas elsewhere that it makes it more economical, right? And so you can never say into the future that the pipeline won't make more sense in the future. If the cost of gas goes up and it stays up, then maybe the economics of the project are different 10 years from now.
17 trillion cubic feet of gas by some estimates. So, I mean, that's a lot of gas up there. All right, well, let's get back to it. Here we go. Ben Carpenter, our guest, The Michael Duke Show.
Alaskan Talk Radio with a host who actually lives in Alaska. I know! Weird, right? This is The Michael Dukes Show, starring Michael Dukes.
Okay, one final segment here this morning with Ben Carpenter, former representative and the host of Oversight Live, which you can watch most weeknights starting at about 7 p.m. Sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes, I was looking the other night, it was like 3 hours. I was like, oh man, I can't stay up that late, man. I can't stay up that late. But he's got a lot of good insight on stuff that's happening in the legislature and more. I wanted to take this final segment to kind of give Ben his head and just let him talk about the things that he thinks are important. We've talked about the end of session. We've talked about the special session, where, what's happening with gas, where it goes from here. So Ben, drive it like you stole it. Treat it like it's your show. What are you concerned about? What should Alaskans be paying attention to? What are you going to be focused on here in the coming days? Give us your thoughts here.
I'm going to go a different, kind of a different answer. To answer that question, I'm going to go in a different route here. I think what Alaskans should be thinking about right now is the fact that none of us know anything about building a giga project. We know nothing about building a pipeline project. We think we do. The hubris in us will come up and we're like, oh yeah, we can put this together. We can go collect some details and make some sense of it. But we really don't know what it takes to build a project. First of all, the self-talk that you would have to have in order to be the CEO of Glenfarne, to stay focused and have a very big picture mindset, is something that most of us do not have. We don't have that. We would have to stay positive because there are 1,000 hurdles that you have to climb over in order to get a project of this size done. And most of us, when we are faced with one hurdle, we'd be like, oh man, this is going to be hard. I think I'm going to go do something else. All right. So it would be good for all of us and for the conversation, toning down the rhetoric and the naysayers and the I don't know, just the malaise that is within our culture here. Recognize that there are people out there that are skilled at putting together projects. We need to protect ourselves, but we also need to keep an attitude that we don't know what we don't know. And to assume that we know things is very dangerous. We should go ask good questions. And that's why I'm hopeful thus far of what I'm seeing in Senate Finance, that we are going to have people asking better questions, and that will help protect us as well as help usher in a pipeline project that is hopefully financeable, right? I don't need the legislature to tell me that it's financeable. I don't need any Alaskans to tell me that it's financeable. What I need is for investors to tell me it's financeable. Glenfarne is having those conversations. And if Glenfarne gets them in their agreement on whatever the cost of the project is, and it is financeable, then that's what I need to know. I don't need the government to step in and say, we know better and we're going to determine whether it's financeable or not. That is irrelevant in my opinion. The financiers and Glenfarne, who's going to build the project, they're the ones that need to know. And as long as the state of Alaska and the taxpayer doesn't have a risk of having to fund the cost overruns, then, and that's the correct position, I think, for the state, then let the private industry run with this and build it. And if they fail, we're just out some tax revenue and we're out a pipeline, but we're not out having to bail it out, right? That is the correct position for us to be in. So I am more interested in Glenfarne and the private industry, the investors telling us that it is a financeable project, that I am Alaskans thinking that they know better, because nobody here knows how to put together a project of this size.
Right. Well, and again, it's just not helping us that the legislature seems to be focused, for the most part, on all the wrong things. Right. That's the thing. Being focused on all the wrong things to see what can we get out of it? What could, again, missing the boat and changing the mandate of maximum benefit means, what does it do for the economy? What does it do for the people? How does cheap energy affect us versus what can we get in the coffers?
And I think it's the other thing that's important for people to we need truth to be the primary thing we're seeking here. And I think calling out the ulterior motives of some people is important, because there's what you say and then there's what you actually are going to do. And if you're in the category that says, you know what, I'm this acolyte of the climate, we're going to die religion if we don't do something about carbon, and we got to end oil and gas development in Alaska. If you're in that category and we can identify that that's where you belong, then your credibility in this conversation about whether we should have a pipeline drops off to nothing, in my opinion. If you would rather see alternative energy like wind and solar be the thing that Alaska focuses on instead of a gas pipeline, then your opinion is irrelevant, in my opinion. You cannot compare those two sources of energy as comparable for what economic benefit they would bring to the state of Alaska. It is not an apples to apples comparison. And if that's what you think you would rather see the state of Alaska prioritize as its policy, the political policy, we need to ferret that out and understand that is what's driving your decision making in the legislature, because that is nonsense. That is not in the best interest of Alaskans.
We need more of this kind of direct, the directed. And Brian actually has a comment here. He says the adage that says a 5% interest owner is 90% of the hassle. That's what it is. We're the 25% equity interest owner. 25% is zero at this point. But we seem to be creating all the stumbling blocks and the hurdles at this point, not being willing to give. And our equity comes not just from pure cash donations, but could come from tax breaks and things like that. Why are we allowing people who are antithetical to the project to be part of that, or to to drive the bus on that? That's the whole point here, right?
Look at TAPS and how successful that has been.
Yeah.
Do we have an equity stake in TAPS? No, we just have a taxation role. Let that be the role for the gas pipeline as well. That way, in the future, our equity position is not delude the next legislature from thinking they have some control over the decision making that goes on with managing the pipeline. Let's nip that in the bud and make this a private industry operation, because they're the ones that are going to be able to manage this appropriately. The state getting involved in this is ludicrous.
Right. Well, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the pocketbook to be able to make that happen. 2 minutes left, Ben. So final thoughts for the listeners. What are you covering tonight, or this, for tonight or tomorrow? What should they be watching? Final thoughts here for you.
Well, on Oversight Live, we're going to pick up where we left off. I am going to follow what happens in Senate Resources, so maybe we'll skip around a little bit and not catch everything. But there are some important things that were covered in the meeting yesterday that we didn't get to on the show. And I told everybody right off the bat, we're not going to be able to get everything, but we do need to address some of the things that were said later. So we're going to go back to that, and then hopefully we can jump to what's, keep us up and current with what's going on in Senate Resources, because I think that's where the best conversations are happening.
And I would agree. I think that there's some good stuff happening in there. Like I said, watching it yesterday, I was encouraged by some of the questions and some of the things like this. Over and under, what, again, early days. And I'm not trying to nail you down, but I want a best guess as, do you think that we come through this in the end with a plan? Do you think we come through this with a proper tax that makes, if not everybody's at least happy, at least they're satisfied, a good compromise?
Yeah, I'm going to remain optimistic and say yes. I think it's not going to be a unanimous vote, but I think that the legislature will support it in the end. I am cautiously optimistic.
Well, it's good to see optimism. Like you said, there's that negativity in there. If they tried to build TAPS today, based on the makeup of what we got right now, we probably wouldn't even get TAPS based on what's happening right now, for sure. All right. Ben Carpenter, host of Oversight Live, again, available on YouTube, Facebook, and X. He'll be going live tonight about 7 p.m. And we look forward to seeing what's happening there. Ben, thanks so much for coming on board.
Always a pleasure, Michael. We'll see you next week.
All right, folks, we got more coming up tomorrow with Firearms Friday. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, Ben, it's just you, me, and 50 of our closest friends on the internet, plus whoever listens to the podcast later and all the people who watch it later on whatever. Anyway, what was the secret thing that you wanted to tell us that you couldn't tell us on the radio? What else are you, let your hair down here and tell us what your thoughts are. You caught me. I don't know what secret thing I was supposed to say. You have to refresh my memory. Yeah, no, look, it's frustrating to watch this thing happen. I quit watching the Senate Resource Committee meetings because quite honestly, I was just getting angry for no reason other than the fact that they were very obviously dragging their feet on this. I mean, God love Rob Myers and company who had to sit through that and try and bring some common sense to the conversation. Yesterday's meeting was a breath of fresh air comparatively, and I'm happy to see it. Again, I've often said that I'm hopeful but not optimistic as to the fate of the gas line. I am still very hopeful. I know you said you're optimistic, and I would love to see it, but I think we're going to have to let this play out. We're going to have to give to get. And, quite honestly, all things being equal, if you made me God Emperor for a day, I would probably say that if the choice was you get a gas pipeline, but the state makes no money, I'd be like, okay, you know? I mean, if that's what it came down to, because I understand, again, the economics of that cheap energy and everything else. If that was the drop dead decision that you had to make, was the state makes no money, but we get a gas line, and that's your only choice, I would take it at this point.
I published on Facebook, my personal Facebook page, a comparison of 2 articles that were published in the Alaska Beacon, which is a left-leaning supported local state news outlet, right? And they are very much pushing all renewable energy and poo-pooing the idea of a gas pipeline. Okay, and on the same day, they published 2 different articles that are giving that flavor. Right? We have to understand that if you think that renewable energy is going to equal low cost energy, you are mistaken. You are completely mistaken. The only reason, and this article is pointing it out, the only reason that we can justify having the renewables is because the price of imported gas makes it competitive. So if imported gas is too much for us to pay, and we don't want to have to pay that, meaning with a pipeline we would be paying less than imported gas, which is the projected case, then that means anything that is renewable would be more than pipeline gas.
Yeah.
And that is the reality that some of us, some in the state want to see, is that we want to move to this renewables energy. That means higher cost energy than what is possible if we were to get a pipeline and an export facility built. And that's where we need to focus. Ferret out this argument.
I saw the article you're talking about. Solar power could soon be cheaper than natural gas power in Anchorage. But the one sentence in the middle of this that gets me all was that the gal from Chugach Electric says she doesn't see a scenario where Chugach could rely on all renewables for summer months without some new major hydro coming online. So it's all about dispatchable, right? I mean, that's the thing.
That's right.
It's trying to tell us that, solar is just as good as gas. Solar is just as good as gas. Except for the fact that we need a huge hydro plant to make it all work, right?
There's a reason why they call it renewable and not reliable.
Exactly. All right. Well, Ben Carpenter, thank you, my friend. It's good to have you on board. I don't know, man. Fingers crossed. That's all I can do. Fingers crossed. We're watching it right now. Thanks for coming out and being part of it. Good luck for tonight. We'll see you later.
We'll see you next week.
All right, folks. Out of time for today. We got to go. Thanks for being with us. We will see you guys tomorrow for Firearms Friday. See you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.